Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
A queen with a crown, but no love. Camilla may have officially secured her place beside King Charles, but there's one title she'll never truly claim: the People's Queen. Because no matter how much time passes, one name still echoes louder than any royal decree: Diana. She was more than just a princess. She was a phenomenon. Even decades after her death, her presence is everywhere. Meanwhile, Camilla's journey from the other woman to queen has been anything but smooth. So why does the world still adore Diana while Camilla struggles to escape her past? What really went on behind palace doors? And how did one woman become a legend while the other remains a controversy? Let's get into the real reason Camilla will never be as loved as Princess Diana. The other woman who became queen. When Lady Diana Spencer stepped into the royal spotlight as the future Princess of Wales, the world was mesmerized. She had it all: beauty, grace, and the kind of charm that felt straight out of a fairy tale. But behind the fairy lights and royal pageantry, there was another woman, one who had held Prince Charles's heart long before Diana ever entered the picture: Camilla Parker Bowles. By all accounts, she was Prince Charles's first real love. It was the early 1970s when they met at a polo match, and from the start, they just clicked. They shared a love for horses, country life, even sketching. She was a classic high society Brit, well-bred but refreshingly down-to-earth. No messy family drama, no desperate need for wealth. Just a woman with a cigarette in hand, a slightly crooked smile, and a free-spirited charm that drew Charles in like a moth to a flame. They were inseparable. At one party, they danced so much that Charles's actual date stormed off in fury. The whispers began. Was this it? Was Camilla the one? But there was a problem. Camilla had what people at the time called a reputation. She wasn't Charles's first, and worse, he wasn't hers. In royal circles, that mattered. So when duty called and Charles left for naval service in the Caribbean, Camilla didn't wait around. She married her other suitor, the dashing Andrew Parker Bowles, in a grand society wedding. And Charles? Well, let's just say the news hit hard. Some say he locked himself in his cabin for 3 days. Others say 3 hours. Either way, the future King of England had himself a good long cry. But heartbreak didn't stop the royal agenda from moving forward. Lady Diana Spencer was chosen as the perfect bride for him by the royals. And when Prince Charles and Diana finally announced their engagement in 1981, the world was sold a fairy tale. Diana, just 19 years old, was the picture of the perfect royal bride: young, beautiful, aristocratic, and adored by the public. Their wedding at St. Paul's Cathedral was nothing short of a spectacle, broadcast to 750 million people across 74 countries. It was meant to be the love story of the century. But behind the breathtaking 25-foot train and dazzling smile, something was already very wrong. Diana had a sinking feeling, one that she couldn't shake. Even before the wedding, she had seen the signs. The biggest one: a bracelet, a gift Charles had specially commissioned for Camilla, engraved with the initials F and G. Their secret nicknames, Fred and Gladys. Still, Diana convinced herself that marriage would change things, that once they said "I do," Charles would finally love her the way she loved him. But his heart was never truly in it. The warning signs had been there all along, even in their engagement interview. When a journalist asked if they were in love, Diana beamed, "Of course." Charles's response? A cold, indifferent, "Whatever in love means." This should have been the ultimate red flag for the entire world. After marriage, Diana's worst fears turned true when she found that Charles was still in contact with Camilla. Betrayal soon gave way to a deeper, more isolating pain. Slowly, her paranoia turned into despair. Her pain manifested in ways the public couldn't see: eating disorders, self-harm, blasting Duran Duran at full volume just to drown out the noise in her own head. And at her lowest point, she even threw herself down the stairs. Still, Diana gathered herself and got busy with royal duties and motherhood. However, the distance between her and Charles only grew. The public adored her, worshipped her even, and that adoration seemed to gnaw at Charles. He wasn't just overshadowed, he was eclipsed. At every royal engagement, it became painfully clear. Diana had the magic, and Charles was struggling to keep up. But there was one person who never made him feel second best: Camilla Parker Bowles. By the late 1980s, Charles and Diana's marriage was beyond repair. Camilla wasn't just a friend anymore. She was his person, the one he leaned on when everything else crumbled. While Diana fought for love, loyalty, and validation, Camilla was the one Charles turned to for comfort. In 1992, the world got a front-row seat to the unraveling of this royal marriage. Andrew Morton's Diana, her true story, was the ultimate bombshell. Secretly based on tapes recorded by Diana herself, the book revealed the depths of her suffering. Then came the scandal that left Britain speechless: the Camilla Gate tapes. In 1993, just months after Charles and Diana officially separated, a leaked phone call between Charles and Camilla hit the press, and it was humiliating to say the least. The world listened in shock as Charles told Camilla he wanted to live inside her trousers. It was scandalous, it was intimate, and it left no doubt. This wasn't just an old friendship. This was an affair that had been going on long before Diana was ever in the picture. In 1984, Charles finally admitted on national television that he had been unfaithful. His excuse? It only happened after his marriage had irretrievably broken down. Diana saw it differently, and she wasn't about to stay silent. In 1995, during her now infamous BBC Panorama interview, Diana finally broke the silence, delivering the words that shattered the illusion. "Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." With that one line, she exposed the painful reality. This wasn't the love story the world believed it to be. The other woman was no longer just a rumor. Camilla was real. And Diana? She had spent years fighting for the love of a man whose heart had already belonged to someone else. With every new revelation, Camilla became the villain in a love story that was supposed to be Diana's. The press tore her apart. She was mocked, despised, blamed for destroying the most beloved royal marriage in history. While Diana was cherished for her raw honesty and vulnerability, Camilla was branded a homewrecker, the woman who stole Britain's fairy tale. After Diana and Charles finalized their divorce in 1996, Diana stepped into a new chapter, one that was entirely her own. Free from the constraints of royal life, she threw herself into humanitarian work, becoming an even bigger global icon. She was no longer just a princess, she was the people's princess, a force of compassion, grace, and resilience. Camilla, on the other hand, had no such redemption arc. She stayed in the shadows, facing relentless public hatred. She was booed in the streets, ridiculed in the press, and branded the woman who had destroyed Diana's happiness. To most, she wasn't just unwelcome, she was unworthy of any future in the monarchy. Then, in 1997, the unthinkable happened. Diana was gone. A devastating car crash in Paris took her life, and the world stopped. Over 2.5 billion people watched her funeral, while oceans of flowers and handwritten tributes flooded the gates of Buckingham and Kensington Palace. The grief was overwhelming, raw, and unlike anything the monarchy had ever faced. And Camilla? She vanished. No statements, no public appearances. Nothing. While the world mourned Diana, Camilla was nowhere to be seen. But time, as it always does, moved forward. The monarchy endured, reshaping itself in the wake of loss and scandal. Yet even as the years passed, one question lingered. Could the public ever truly accept the woman once seen as the villain in Diana's story? Queen by title, not by heart. In May 2023, Camilla Parker Bowles finally stepped into the role she had spent decades preparing for: Queen Camilla. Crowned alongside King Charles III at Westminster Abbey, it was the ultimate moment of validation, the pinnacle of her royal journey. But even with the crown, the title, and the power, there was one thing she could never quite claim: the love of the people. For years, the monarchy worked tirelessly to reshape Camilla's image, carefully weaving her into public life. Every appearance, every carefully staged moment was designed to erase the past, to make the world forget the scandal, the heartbreak, the betrayal. The goal was clear: to transform the other woman into a respected queen. But could the public ever truly forget the truth? No matter how much time had passed, Camilla was never embraced the way Diana had been. Even when Queen Elizabeth gave her official blessing in 2022, expressing her sincere wish that Camilla be called Queen Consort, the response from the public was muted. There were no cheers, just a quiet, lingering question: had history really forgiven her? Polls taken around the time of Charles and Camilla's coronation made one thing clear: Britain was still divided. Only 14% of the public wanted Camilla to be called Queen, while most believed she should remain Queen Consort. The idea that the woman once seen as the ultimate betrayer in Diana's story was now wearing the very crown Diana was meant to have. For many, it was hard to swallow. Winning over the public was never going to be easy, and for years, Camilla remained in the shadows. Emerging only when absolutely necessary, she became the subject of a slow, careful rebranding, one orchestrated by the royal family to reshape her image. No longer the other woman, but Charles's steady, supportive partner. After Diana's death, Charles knew he couldn't just bring Camilla into his sons' lives overnight. The wounds were too fresh, the loss too deep. Slowly, carefully, he began laying the groundwork. William was the first to meet Camilla in 1998, in what was described as a carefully orchestrated introduction. The meeting? Awkward but polite. William was civil but distant. He wasn't ready to welcome her with open arms. To him, Camilla was the woman who had been there, in the background during his parents' unraveling marriage. For Harry, it was an even longer road. He was just 12 when he lost his mother, and the grief ran deep. To him, Camilla was a living reminder of everything that had gone wrong. Accepting her meant making peace with a past he wasn't ready to forgive. But time and the inevitability of royal duty pushed things forward. Charles and Camilla finally married in 2005, but it was nothing like the grand spectacle of his wedding to Diana. No Westminster Abbey, no global fairy tale. Instead, it was a quiet civil ceremony in Windsor, attended by only a small circle of guests. Queen Elizabeth didn't even attend the wedding itself, just the blessing at St. George's Chapel afterward. A subtle but undeniable message. Camilla was in, but she hadn't fully earned the monarchy's embrace. For years, the palace avoided a move that would have been technically correct, but emotionally catastrophic, giving Camilla the title of Princess of Wales. Legally, she was entitled to it. But in the eyes of the world, that title belonged to one woman and one woman only: Diana. Instead, Camilla took on the title Duchess of Cornwall, blending quietly into the background, waiting for the day she could finally step into the light. Despite the monarchy's careful rebranding efforts, the scars of the past never truly faded. And then came The Crown. When the Netflix series premiered, it reignited everything. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the scandal. A new generation, too young to remember Diana's pain firsthand, was now watching it unfold on screen, reminding the world of the infamous love triangle that defined the 80s and 90s. And then, in 2023, Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, dropped like a bombshell. In it, he painted Camilla as a calculated figure who spent years working behind the scenes to secure her place in the monarchy. He accused her of manipulating the press, leaking stories, and carefully shaping the narrative so that, one day, the British public would accept her. For many, this wasn't just another royal scandal, it was proof. Proof that Camilla's role as queen had been engineered, not earned. But no amount of rebranding could change one undeniable truth: Camilla would always stand in Diana's shadow. Diana was the people's princess, adored for her warmth, her vulnerability, and her ability to connect with people on a deeply human level. Whether it was holding hands with AIDS patients in the 80s or walking through landmine fields in Angola, she radiated authenticity. Compassion wasn't just something she practiced, it was who she was. Camilla, by contrast, has always struggled to escape the weight of history. Even when she dedicates herself to causes like domestic violence awareness or literacy programs, her efforts are overshadowed by where she came from and how she got here. While Diana was loved, Camilla has merely been tolerated. The truth is, no matter how many years pass, she will never command the same level of admiration, devotion, or unwavering loyalty that Diana still holds in the hearts of millions. Public perception is not easily rewritten, especially when the past casts such a long shadow. Camilla may wear the crown, but Diana's presence still looms large, an enduring force that time cannot diminish. Diana's eternal legacy. Diana was never just one thing. She was a mother, a wronged wife, a style icon, a humanitarian, and in many ways, a rebel. And even in death, her magnetism hasn't faded. According to Andrew Morton, the journalist who blew the lid off the royal family with Diana, her true story, her impact remains as powerful as ever. Back in 1992, Morton's book shattered the carefully curated royal fairy tale, exposing Diana's unhappiness, her struggle with bulimia, her suicide attempts, and of course, Charles's ongoing relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. For the first time, the world saw beyond the royal tiaras and designer gowns. Diana wasn't just a princess, she was a person navigating unimaginable heartbreak on the world stage. She was flawed, she was vulnerable, and yet she had the courage to take on the difficult challenges that she faced in her life, Morton explained in an interview with The Current. That's what made Diana so different. Her struggles weren't hidden behind palace walls, they were lived and the world watched. From a shy teenage bride to an international force for change, she evolved before the public's eyes. People saw themselves in her, imperfect, emotional, resilient. But Diana's story didn't end with her. According to Morton, her legacy is still burning brightly through her eldest son, Prince William. I think that in Prince William you will see the flame of Diana continue well into this century, he said. Beyond her own extraordinary transformation, Diana reshaped the very image of the monarchy and changed the culture around it in ways no one could have predicted. According to Andrew Morton, her influence was seismic, and that influence didn't end with her life. It only grew stronger. Diana's death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a turning point. The overwhelming public grief shattered centuries of royal detachment, forcing the monarchy to acknowledge human emotion in a way it never had before. And the impact wasn't just symbolic, her passing raised over $300 million for 400 charities, proving that even in death, her compassion continued to change lives. But perhaps Morton's most striking statement? She's done far more to transform the monarchy than perhaps even the Queen. That's no small claim. In just 15 years as a royal, Diana revolutionized the institution from the inside out. She broke down barriers, redefined what it meant to be a princess, and made the monarchy feel human. Her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, have carried that torch, speaking openly about their struggles, advocating for mental health, and continuing her legacy in ways that reflect the more emotionally open, compassionate Britain she helped create. And yet, even as the monarchy moves forward, Diana's presence remains impossible to escape. As King Charles finally steps into the role he has waited his entire life for, there's an undeniable irony. His late wife still commands more attention than he ever could. And not just any wife, Diana. Even decades after her death, she sells papers, dominates magazine covers, racks up clicks, and captivates audiences almost as effortlessly as she did in life. Hollywood hasn't let go of her story either. Spencer, starring Kristen Stewart, made waves with its haunting portrayal of Diana's emotional turmoil. The Crown continues to keep her legacy alive with a string of actresses. Naomi Watts in the film Diana, Emma Corrin and Elizabeth Debicki in The Crown, attempting to capture the essence of the woman who once outshone the future king. And let's be honest, Diana loved a well-timed power move. After her split from Charles, she knew exactly how to command attention. She'd show up in a jaw-dropping, off-the-shoulder gown, stealing the spotlight while Charles droned on at some royal event across town. But what's truly remarkable? The way fresh generations continue to be drawn to her. Gen Z, for example, many of whom were born the very year she died in 1997, have no living memory of Diana. Yet, thanks to archival footage, documentaries, and the Crown's semi-fictional retellings, they've become devoted followers of the legend she left behind. Even in death, Diana remains a force of nature, one that King Charles and Camilla can never truly escape. No matter how much time passes, no matter how many carefully managed PR campaigns attempt to soften public opinion, they will always stand in her shadow. Even with Charles on the throne and Camilla officially crowned queen, Diana's presence looms large, her legacy unshaken. Since that fateful night in Paris, she has haunted them, not just in memory, but through the cultural juggernaut she left behind. The immediate days after her death nearly brought the monarchy to its knees. The Queen's delayed response, her decision to keep William and Harry in Balmoral, and the cold detachment of the royal family enraged the public like never before. It was the worst crisis the House of Windsor had faced since the abdication of Edward VIII. For the first time, people didn't just mourn a princess, they questioned the monarchy itself. Yet, instead of fading with time, the cult of Diana has only grown stronger. Few historical figures hold on to their cultural grip decades after their death, but Diana has entered the realm of the truly immortal, like James Dean, Judy Garland, Marilyn Monroe, and John Lennon. She remains frozen in time, untouched by age or scandal. Her story was never allowed the missteps, the regrets, the reinventions that come with growing older. Had she and Dodi buckled their seatbelts that night, would Diana still be the untouchable legend she is today? Would her golden reputation have dimmed with the passing decades? We will never know. Instead, she exists in an eternal state of grace, zero forever young, forever radiant, forever Diana. And that is precisely why, no matter how many years pass, Charles and Camilla will always find themselves living in a marriage of three. The world may have softened toward Camilla, but the idea of Queen Camilla still sparks fury among the most devoted Diana loyalists. The people's princess remains larger than life, her influence stretching beyond history and into mythology. As Charles Spencer so prophetically declared at her funeral, the unique, the complex, the extraordinary, and irreplaceable Diana, whose beauty, both internal and external, will never be extinguished from our minds. And he was right, because for all of Charles's titles, for all of Camilla's carefully rehabilitated reputation, Diana is the one with star power, the one with the legacy that will never fade. Princess Diana's legacy isn't just history, it's alive. It's in the way the world still talks about her, the way her sons carry on her mission, and the way millions still feel connected to a woman who was gone far too soon. Meanwhile, Camilla may wear the crown, but she'll never wear the love Diana had. Some legacies are carefully built. Others, like Diana's, are simply unstoppable. What do you think? Will time ever change how people see Camilla, or is Diana's shadow simply too vast? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your take. And if you love this deep dive into royal history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss what's really happening behind palace doors. See you in the next one.